Hey, everybody. We are here with Brooke and Jeremiah from Project Revolution.
What's up, everyone?
Thanks for joining.
Hey.
What up, LinkedIn? What up, Beatrice? How you doing?
I am good. I am so excited about today's live. So we're going to be talking about getting attention and keeping. And I know, there is a shit ton of talk on LinkedIn, on just all of the social media platforms where people are just like, yeah, so this is how you get attention. And this is how you go viral. But it is really going beyond that, right? It is actually getting the right kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you do go viral, maybe it's like a smaller viral, but if it's the right kind of people and they're staying with you, then it's long-term benefit for your business. So anybody who's sure,
and for them.
Exactly. And so anyone who's joining us, please jump in the comments, say hi, ask any questions. We will be keeping an eye out on the comments section, and we'll get back to any questions that you might have that pop up. Brooke, Jeremiah, anything that you wanted to pop in before we get started on the...
Yeah. Say hi, everybody. Let us know you're here.
I got something to say. This is her first live, everyone.
Yeah.
First live, everybody give it up for Brooke Braga. She's in the house.
First live event.
I feel like you both are kind of twinners.
I feel
like you guys are like lost like family relatives.
I know.
I see you,
we really do.
It's that Portuguese.
Portuguese.
There is so much similarities, not even funny. And hey, Chris, thank you so much for joining us from Dallas.
Amanda,
what's
what
up,
Amanda?
So, all right. I mean, anyone else think that we're like twinning? We're potential twinning, just different lighting.
Are we twins? Beatrice and I. We should do a poll.
What about me?
Yeah, exactly. You guys just need to get this like black lipstick.
That's funny, Beatrice. Just real quick, when we first started working with you, Jeremiah was tripping out because he was looking at our pictures. One day we were looking at our pictures and we compared them side by side, and we actually sent a picture to you of holding the phone up next to me of your picture, and we sent it to you. Do you remember that?
I remember that. That was hilarious.
Well, we got to
I looked at the phone and I was like, wait, hang on a second. What is going on here?
Who are those weird USA people?
Chris thinks we're twinning. Mm-hmm.
See, this is one vote. We're two votes.
Okay,
two.
Twinning.
Okay.
All right.
So now we just all need to get black lipstick. It's fine. We got this. I mean,
I know.
feel like we had this conversation before we got started that it does leach out color, even though for some reason I've still got a tan. I don't know if it's the lighting.
At least you still maintain your tan.
I don't ever have a tan because I live in Portland. Portland, you don't get sun.
Come to Spain. All right. So let's go ahead.
I said we'll see you soon.
Hell yeah. Just wait for the flooding to go down. We've had some crazy flooding surrounding Valencia.
Oh no.
Yesterday. Yeah, it was intense. Cars being washed down the roads and
Oh wow.
I'm glad you're safe.
I didn't know you was getting hit in Valencia.
It was intense. They were the phone alerts and everything just going bzz, bzz, bzz.
Wow. That's scary.
Yeah, we're good. We're good though. I mean, okay. I'm good. There's people missing, but okay. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
On to the topic for today that everyone's joining us. And first section, we've split it up into 3 parts. So the first part is we're going to be talking about customer or client personas, right? And the second part will be around messaging and really honing in on really defined and directed messaging, that people can really understand. And the last part of this session is implementation. So how to actually have it implemented within your teams and even as a solopreneur, etc., to make sure whatever it is that you're working on, that it's actually getting done. So
Let's do this.
first
I'm
part,
excited.
sorry?
I said, let's do this. I am so excited.
Mm-hmm. Good topics.
Woo! Hell yeah.
I don't know where to stand.
So, ICP, I know in the US you guys call it what, persona or client
Avatar.
profile? Avatar. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna use a different word for it, seriously.
I know.
Now in project management, we call it a persona.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah, and even in project management, we
one
do that,
term. One
right?
term.
It's
I
funny
know.
because I was actually teaching this last night. We use personas to better deliver results to our clients, right? We use user stories and personas. So
Mhm.
it's the same thing. Avatar, it's all interconnected.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So
Very cool.
going into client personas, avatars, all that, right?
Mhm.
And defining them, right? Now,
Yes.
a lot of the businesses that we see, like they spend a lot of money into building out, okay, this is our avatar. But
Mhm.
then it is going into like, okay, they're 50 years old, their name's Albert, they
Got a
love
dog
fishing,
Yeah.
dog.
named Sally.
But in terms of when they're buying, that doesn't really help us, in terms of messaging.
Mm-mm.
And I know that we've had this experience and it's really developed as the brand has been built out. And it's really defining the behavior, the psychology of it. Okay, what are we feeling? What's their situation? Or what's their
That's right.
situation before they recognize that they need you?
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing that I learned was that we spend so much time running down where they live, who they are, how many kids they have, when we're really missing the key thing is what is the problem? What is their situational? I love situational ICP, right? What's the situation and how do I solve that problem? They got a problem and how do I position myself to solve that problem 100% above the rest? That's it. And anything else, we start getting kind of lost in the weeds and we're spending a lot of time. What I think to be noise and what I've experienced, and I've talked to other people who've experienced the same thing, we get lost in the noise. And we don't actually solve anything. We just know that they have a dog and Sally and a cat and all this great stuff. But what is their problem and how do we solve it? Simply.
Yeah. We've spent quite a bit of time taking that direction as
Mhm.
far as ICP or avatars go. And I always struggled with it a little bit, but I was always told you have to put a face, you have to create this person, you have to get to know them and inside and out and all these things, and like if you put the face on there and you build this, people are going to maybe have more compassion for them or understand them more. But it never really got us anywhere. Yeah, we have this person created. We know what they're waking up and putting on in the morning, but at the end of the day, what pain do they have? What situation? How are you going to grab their attention? That's what really matters. It's interesting. And apparently it works for a lot of people because from what I understand, huge businesses do that.
But it's different with big businesses.
Mhm.
They can do that. They can leverage and they have a lot more data around the person and it also depends on the product, really. Right.
I mean, they're probably spending a lot more money in terms of like, okay, what is their situation? Because
Mhm.
that's a lot more tracking that, because most of us spend a lot of time on social media and the
Mhm.
things that we're following, the things that we're clicking, it's tracking all of that, right? So like if we're typing into Google, what the hell does this even mean? That's all being picked up by someone, right?
Mhm.
So it is going beyond that. Like say, for example, if you don't have that budget to go and spend on like a multi-million-dollar breakdown of like what is that specific market doing, it's going into Reddit, Quora, etc., and
Mhm.
seeing like what kind of questions
Yep.
are being asked in your field, right? Who's
Mhm.
asking them? Like, what are the frustrations? Even you can check into Google Analytics and Google Trends.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of
Definitely.
questions are on the rise?
Yeah, and our biggest way we have gotten to know our people is just by talking to them, asking them, getting in the DMs, getting on calls with
Very
them, and
basic.
having conversations.
This is the
Mhm.
biggest thing that a lot of us, for some reason, it's almost like we're scared to ask the question. And I went and did a bunch of surveys and different polls like that. And I reached out to a bunch of CEOs and executives in my network. And a lot of people got back to me and they're like, how did you get a hold of those CEOs? And I was like, I just asked them a question.
People want to tell you their insights.
Yeah, I was just very personal. I
You
didn't
know?
write them a book of all the things that I was going to do. I was very pointed. I want to be mindful of your time. I have a question. Can you answer this for me?
And you come at them, I'm trying to solve this problem.
Mhm.
And you're not even trying to sell them anything
Yeah,
at that point. You're
I'm
just
just
like, I'm trying to solve a problem that exists in your industry. How help me help you?
Help me. Help
Mhm.
you.
And they're more than willing to come back and say everything. Tell you.
Yeah, they're totally fine with it. So I recommend that if all else fails, and then also there's so much information on the internet right now, like you're talking about, like Reddit and Google Analytics. We can go in there and hyper focus on what questions are they asking and where do they live? Where do you target? What area can you target your messaging? So now you know the solution and you know where they live. That's it. Go after it.
Exactly. Those frustrations before they even recognize it, like
That's a
before
trick.
they're
That's
yeah,
tricky.
right.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's not those initial. It's never the initial like surface level frustrations, right? So like, oh, I'm frustrated with the staff turnover, for example.
Mhm.
But the actual issue is far like below like that, right? And it goes always down to that human, like the human elements, like this
Mhm.
human needs and desires.
I love
And you
that.
guys,
And that really, when it comes to the person that's serving, right? So whoever we're serving, when they tell us these surface level problems, if you're really in a position in a niche of your unique genius and you just know this industry, your industry inside and out, you can help them break down that problem. Like you even know their problem before they do because you know the source of it and you know how to solve it. So you can help them break down the layers.
Yeah, and the biggest trick is you also want to make sure that you don't stay surface level with them. And you're doing them a disservice if you just kind of play tag back and forth by, oh, well, is it this? It's like when you have a problem and you identify it, go deep. Get in there and go deep with them and help add the proper amount of value and make sure, because you're doing them a disservice if you just stay up here and kind of fluff, you're wasting their time and your time. And so you need to make sure that you actually can speak to them, know the situation, know what their problem is, and then serve them at the highest level. That is bottom line. And it can be that easy. It really can be that easy, but it takes a lot of you searching who you are, because if you don't possess it, you can't give it. So you have to know who you are and how you can communicate. Once you understand that, then how can I communicate effectively, how I can help them simply. And that's really, understanding your ICP, but you can't understand your ICP if you don't understand yourself first.
and speaking of that, I know we've just hit on something there. Understanding yourself, understanding the business, right?
Mhm.
It's making sure that we get the whole team on board and really check, okay, what are we? What do we represent? What
Mhm.
you as a business owner might think maybe very different to, say, for example, to what the salesperson thinks that you represent, what your
Mhm.
values are, what your vision is, right? Because despite many of us thinking like, okay, it's just something that like just needs to be put up on a website, it's something that reflects back, and it's something that if you're having it consistent throughout the whole team, then they're representing that. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
maybe it's a fact of like, hey, guys, just put this on a piece of paper, like write on a piece of paper your reply to what you think that we represent, or what you think that our position in the market is.
I like that. That's great. You can it's good to have those discussions with your people, with
Yeah,
your team.
if your team doesn't know what
Mhm.
business you're in and what you actually do and who you serve, you've got a problem. They're not aligned with the mission, and then how they're executing the work, and how, because a lot of your team members are actually talking to your clients as well. So if they don't know, the background of why we do what we do and how we do it, and they're just in the, cogs, like as people say, cogs in the wheel. I don't like that term, but it's cogs in the wheel doing the thing. You're missing out on a lot of, they could damage your reputation because they're not aligned. You're missing out on a lot of, like, and I'm going to say this word, and don't you all slap me, but synergy within your team. No, but you're missing out on a lot of connection.
I'm done.
You miss out with a lot of really, you're just missing out on a lot of connection and really truly building a high performing team that knows how to serve your clients at the highest level. Because if you have team members, you own a business and you have a team, you can't just leave it up to their own. I mean, there's certain parts where they have to innovate, but there's other parts and other sections where they have to actually know why we do what we do and who we do it for. And if they don't, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah. Bad things can happen.
I mean, look at, what is it, Bud Light. Bud
my.
Light. What happened with them?
Yeah.
One single person did not get the
memo?
They didn't get the memo. They didn't get the assignment. Like, it just takes that one person. And that's why, we're going to get into this later on in terms of the implementation, but it is like something that you just need to keep on coming back to and making sure that everyone's on board. And not only like they're on board, it's like you're talking with them. And so everybody who's listening now, I just want to shoot out a question to you guys. What challenges have you faced in terms of, say, for example, really honing in on who your customer or client persona or avatar is, or even internally in your business, getting your team clear on the same message, on the same values, on the same vision, etc. Yes, Chris, synergy is like, I will probably leave the room.
I just had to do that just to poke Beatrice.
Yeah, they know me too well.
While we're waiting for comments to come in, I'd like to say something, maybe a little lesson learned of what we've learned, if that's okay.
Go.
One of the biggest problems that we had, all of us have a lot of, strengths within our business, or like even as individuals in a team. Now that's your breadth and your depth, right? So your breadth is going to be everything that you can do, like the whole kitchen sink, and your depth is like the level of skill that you have in each one of these areas. So a lot of us have this breadth and depth of all the things. And one of my biggest problems is, as I've been able to work with big, businesses, reshaping the business and working in organizations and doing all these things, I can go in and do so many different things in an organization or a business or with a teams, whatever, in all departments. And that means that you are a master of nothing. You just know how to do everything. And so my biggest thing is I had people would come to me and they say, man, we love your energy. We love who you are, but we don't know what you do. And I was like, what do you mean you don't know what I do? I do everything.
I do it all.
And they're like, well, we just hired somebody who did this thing. We were looking at you, but we didn't know what you do. And I was like, oh, wait, what do you mean? How is it not clear? And so you go through running around trying to figure out, how do I just communicate to everybody I can do everything? They're not looking for everything. They're looking for something specific, a situation that we're trying to solve. That's my biggest lesson. It took me a long time of getting beat up. And Beatrice was out there with her baseball bat like, Jeremiah, come here. She's trying to hit me. I dodge. I move around. I don't mess around. Problem is I needed to take a couple lickings. Lickings, is that even a term? Lickings, man. I'm from the Midwest, everybody. I am actually.
Yes, that was so Nevada of you.
So Nevada. I mean, I'm like deep Nevada. Like there's one stop sign, not a stoplight.
Yeah, it's kind of like another form of the word salad, like this comment says here. I can't see whose name it is. Yeah, it's like it's a buffet.
Yeah, I got all kinds of buffet. But the point, let me land the plane. The whole point is no. Even though you can do everything, people don't want everything. So look for what you're incredible at, like the one thing that you do better than anybody else, and do that thing. Serve your people.
Exactly. And I'm going to double down on that.
Double.
Just because you choose one thing does not mean that other people are not going to work with you.
Mm,
Oh, yeah,
They
true.
won't run away, right?
yeah.
As long as you're clear about, what we're about to go into, your messaging, and showing that, you know that target audience, they will still other people will still approach you. And it'll just be from that clarity.
Mhm.
So we've got Chris coming in here with, I'm in the supply chain domain. I've had difficulty figuring out if the ICP is a higher level executive or a frontline planner.
Mhm.
It's a challenging question right there. Like,
Mhm.
so sure, go.
So when you really think about when we're talking about organizational structure, like organizational awareness, when you're talking about the executives, a lot of executives are really they're pretty high up. The sales cycle of an executive is a long time for them to get back to you, to mobilize. You want to find your mobilizers and not your talkers. And this really comes from a book that's it's called The Challenger Sales. And they talk a lot about, if you really want to know the organization, you have to go through and find the people who will mobilize for you. And a lot of them are in your mid-level management. They're the people who really are feeling the pain, like Beatrice is saying, and they're either getting it now, so they need somebody immediately, but they have like a normal problem and it's getting ready to be abnormal. And so they're thinking, I need some help. So they have to be able to hire you. A lot of talkers can't hire you. It depends on where they're in the organization. So for me, project managers within an organization, they can influence their boss or influence other people depending on the amount of authority they have. So you have to understand your ICP, what authority they have within the organization, and are they a mobilizer or a talker? And if they're talkers, you're going to be talking a lot. You need people who can mobilize. And in the executive realm, it's really the people who hold the money. So whoever holds the money in a supply chain, you're like directors, program managers, portfolio managers. But you start talking to CEOs, unless it's a small business, they're way too busy. You'll get lost in their email.
Exactly. And it's having those initial probes of research, right? Like understanding where they're at, even if you need to send out those couple of questions to see where they're at in their business, right? Then that way you can really hone in on okay, is this the right person or not?
Middle out.
And
out.
Yeah, catching Beth and Tiff. Thanks for joining, guys.
Hi, Beth. What up, girl?
Hell yeah, that is a very cool hat. I'm still looking at it, going, I should have swapped the black lipstick for the hat.
I'm loving it.
One thing that Chris just said there is he said, it's interesting to look at the middle and not the high level or the low level. So the highest level, they're so busy and they're kind of disconnected from what they need unless they're a small organization. Bigger organizations, mid-level managers have the authority and they got the money. They do. They have the authority to make decisions. It's all about ROI. Can they prove that they need you? That's it.
And it's going back into the pay, right? So we spoke about this before. Understanding whether it's the real pain at the end of the day. So maybe they might be saying, a lot of people hey, so I'll give you 10x the revenue. But say at mid-level, they probably don't care deeply about that. Maybe they care about being able to get home to see their family, to spend time with their family.
Yeah.
So
It's
really
emotionally
understanding where they're at, be it in the business, and how to talk to them. And so that leads into our next topic, which is about messaging and really being simplified about that, simplified about their situation and to get attention. Jeremiah, Brooke, I know you already have some ideas brewing.
Yeah, we've had a lot of lessons with this. We're just creative people, and we've done a lot of work with you, Beatrice, and we came up with this amazing brand. And it's easy when you are in this situation where you just love your brand and it has these creative elements. It can be really easy to get a little too clever and to to lean into, I don't know how to put this exactly, but to lean into the brand too much to where the message isn't coming across. So perhaps after a long time, they might get your catchphrase and everybody might be chanting it, but you have to build up to that point. So at first, you need to make it so people can understand it. And the best thing you can do is simplify it. And that's what we've learned.
To add to that,
Mhm.
just to make sure if we get too, self-centric, if we're focused on ourselves, we're losing our ICP. It's not about getting this through. It's not about getting it out of me or, just this is what we do. And I love everything I do. I, right? It's not about that. It's about getting it through to them. Everything that we do is not about getting it out. It's getting it through, which means you have to speak their language. You have to sing them a song that they know the lyrics to so they can sing it with you. So everything is all about getting it through to them. Do not focus on yourself. And then also we have like TikTok brains, right? We're all right now, 20 seconds, we're getting fed information everywhere all the time. Oh my God, it's everywhere. We're getting overload. And so we generalize, distort, and delete as humans. So we're either generalizing things, we're distorting things, or we're just not even paying attention to it. So we have to speak simply to the people that we want to talk to and solve their problem before they know their problem.
I like what you said there about self-centered, right? Because this is very interesting. It's all about getting attention. You want attention on your business, on your brand, but at the same time, you're not getting attention in a self-centered way. You're getting an attention that people can relate to
serve them.
So it's about them. That's an interesting way to think about it, because at first you may think getting attention is all about, being flashy and, hey, look at me kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, hey, look at you.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's always keeping that one foot in something that people understand,
Mhm.
right? It's great to be different. It's great to like lean into the boat. But there always needs to be something in there which is understood, right? Something which is clear. And doubling down on, what you guys were talking about there in terms of the wording, right? Now, at this point, a lot of people are aware, don't use jargon. But then going beyond that to not using, what is it called? Value judgment words. And that's basically subjective wording.
Yeah.
Don't use subjective wording. So like same thing as in the promotion of this live, we were talking about impact, right? So impact could be like Hiroshima, or it could be solving world hunger. That one word could have so many different meanings. And same thing for like results. We will give you results. Jeremiah, Brooke, I've seen some ideas going.
I'm just thinking, what results? Like
What results?
If you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right? So everything has to be 100% like if somebody wants to work with you, they want to know what is the future of me working with you? What does my future look like when I work with you? What result am I going to get? And not, you're going to get a result. Working with me, I'm going to give you all the things that you want, right? And it's going to be beautiful. Whatever you need, I got you. They're like, cool. I need a lot of things, but I don't know how you're going to help me with that. But it's like if you have one tangible thing that you can do really well, and you have a series of people that have actually said that you can do the thing, and you can put a number behind that, every decision we make in business comes back to a number. And if you can prove that that number is there, immediately our brains see it and we go, all right, that's proof. I like that. That's a real result. This is a tangible, objective, right? Qualitative result. Not quantitative, not qualitative.
Yeah, and we say this a lot with project managers looking for jobs. A business wants to know what you can do for them in a measurable way. So telling, if you're looking for a job and you say, "Oh, I can get you results," they're gonna pass by you. They want to know what results they're gonna get.
Yeah, how do I solve? And the same thing when you're out looking for work. It's 100%. How do I solve the problems? You have to actually know everything. Like, let's just take this big thing from a business standpoint. Growing your business, you have to know what is the situation, what are the options, and how do you solve it? as you narrow down like people and they start, looking for a career, what is the business's situation and how do you position yourself to solve it? So even in personal branding, it all is similar. Everything we're talking about is similar. Even from a project management standpoint, when I'm in there managing projects, I'm looking at what is my customer situation? What is the problem that we're trying to solve for them? And I generate a persona about it for them. It's everything that we're talking about here is so relative. Like it's all interconnected. Very cool. But you gotta be able to say it simply so people can execute efficiently, period.
Exactly. And so often, when we're writing the messages, sometimes we're so busy in the content, or we have like someone that's, even if we've outsourced, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've been working in the content. There's so much focus in that it's not really taking a step back and be like, does this actually make sense? Or is this just words? Like, is there something actually being said here? Like, are we driving towards a certain point? And that's why, say, for example, you take social media managers, marketers, etc., and they establish, okay, so these are the content pillars
Mm-hmm.
that you want to be focused on. This
Mm-hmm.
is to guide you. Like, hey, those content pillars step back to your positioning. They step back to your values, right? So if you're not being relevant to those, and you're not being relevant to those, the pain, to hit on the pain or the frustration, then you're not really saying anything. It's like, okay, this looks great. This sounds like something that our, 8th grade English teacher would be happy with. But outside of that,
That's the thing that gets me about like funnels and marketing. When we're doing a lot of our marketing and messaging, we make these long form content pages where we go through and we're telling everybody, we're trying to take them on this unique journey of all the things we're going to do for them. And I still wonder if anybody actually reads half that crap, because I personally, I buy some stuff and I scroll. I'm like, I'm going to be really quick here, and I got to find, are you saying anything that's going to resonate with me? Because I've gotten into your funnel. I'm in the group. I'm in there. And I just want to know, can you solve my problem? And where's it at in, these 9,122 words? And it's like, and I don't understand, like the highest things that convert are usually always the simplest. But a lot of people in the past have had a lot of just like time on content. They've had a lot of luck with long form, selling and messaging. But man, I still just don't understand if that's even a thing anymore with the way that we think and how we've evolved as people. Like, does that even matter anymore, Beatrice? Like having that long form writing versus short messaging that's tight, crisp. This is your problem. This is how we solve it. Skip the BS.
I do see the value of having both,
Mm-hmm.
simple short form, because like even you find like longer things, longer, documents still work. But I feel like the way that they're written, right, it continues to hold interest throughout,
It's all
talking
about
to
the
different
copy.
points.
Yeah.
Right. So like,
Mhm.
What Chris is saying here in terms of keeping it simple,
Mhm.
right? And yes, 100%. It is so much easier said than done sometimes, right?
Absolutely. Mhm.
And it's really going back and being like, well, say for example, you're talking to a kid, or you're talking to someone who isn't like a genius. So say for example, your clients or your ideal perspectives, they're like CEOs, etc. Maybe their assistants are going to be reading it, or like something like that. Somebody else in the business, they're not
Mhm.
going to be reading it from a technical standpoint, right? They're going to be reading it from like, okay, can I relate to this? It's just a person, because at the end of the day, we're all just people, and that human side. I know we
Mhm.
talk about this a lot because that's what's relevant. That's what people connect with,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
right? Like, so this kind of conversation, we're connecting, we're like continuing on it because there's that established feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It's hitting on something that we've all had challenges with. As soon as Chris mentioned about like, that easier said than done. We're all just like, ah,
Yep.
True.
it's that deep frustration.
Due to an already acquired audience for new reader acquisition, speed kills on long form. I love that.
Who is this LinkedIn user?
It is not coming up. Is this the exact same LinkedIn user? And it's just like,
Who
it's
are
not-
you?
Speed kills on
showing
long
us your name,
You have
okay?
good comments.
Yeah, for new reader acquisition. So yeah, so like for all your new people in the funnel, you want it nice, short, and tight. This is how we solve your problem. And then once they love your stuff and your content and know who you are, know, love, and trust you, right? Then they're going to be reading your long form and digging into it. That's how I read that. That makes sense. And copy is so important. Learning how to write.
Oh, it's Tyler.
Tyler, what up?
Yeah. What up, Tyler?
Staying capable, man, right now. And I'm executing with intelligent urgency, bro.
Now that's what we're talking about, like adding jargon in there.
Yeah.
And the
Wait,
rest
is
of
that all
it's actually-
jargon?
He knows. Tyler understands it all. That's
So
funny.
that's the thing. I mean, like if you're in like, that target person who you're really trying to talk to,
Yeah.
I get it. That's
Mhm.
more important, right? So that's a fact there. And
That's cool.
look, let's throw it back to the audience, who's listening. What have been your experiences in messaging, in trying to keep things relatable, in trying to avoid those words which they're subjective and they always tend to just sneak up in there. You read it and you're like, wait, what does that word mean? And it's often someone else that's going, but what does that really mean? Like same thing. You guys had that experience, and somebody's like, but what does that really mean? Like, even say, for example, project management, or like these technical terms that, say, for example, within one industry, like same as brand strategy, right?
Mhm.
If I tell someone in marketing, right, oh, brand strategy, they're like, oh yeah. But you tell someone in a completely different industry, they're like, oh, so it's marketing. It's under, it's like getting it like to that non-subjective, to something that everybody understands. Jeremiah, you're like, I have a story.
This everything that you're saying, I think in business, everything that you're saying is so important here that like this is a clinic on what not to do and what to do right away, immediately. So if any of this stuff sounds like you're speaking into a void, you're not getting clients, you're having a hard time understanding, why you're not getting clients, always look at your messaging, your positioning, your packaging, your messaging. Right. A lot of time you can have the greatest. A lot of us have a similar offer in some way. Like there's a million people out there that train PMP. There's a million people out there that train project managers. I mean, we're all doing the same thing, but it's how you position and message, right? How you position yourself, and then how you speak about it in a way that resonates with people so that they know that I can trust you. And I've made so many mistakes by not being clear and using too many words that were just like, if I throw all this stuff in there, it's a word salad, right? Buffet of words. People are going to eventually catch one or two that they like, but they don't. They get cross-eyed. And if I could cross my eyes right now, I would. So this is me crossing my eyes. It doesn't help. And just think about you as a buyer. What is your buying criteria as a buyer? And what really catches your attention? If you really want to, again, understand yourself, and then you can start saying, does my messaging speak to people like me if I was buying in that way? And if you start realizing you have all that jargon everywhere, you're going to be like, I need to clean that up. And it is, like Chris said, harder to do. But it's vital. It's worth stopping, because if not, you're actually, and I've done this, and I'm telling, if this is place of experience, you lose months, money, everything. You're dumping into something that literally there's nobody on the other end.
Mhm.
You're making a phone call, nobody's picking up, and you're just spending dollars. It's like gambling in Vegas. You just keep dropping money in, and you're like, where'd it go? Now I'm hungover.
Exactly. And, really doubling down on what you've just mentioned there is that, hey, it's not even about, like, sometimes we want to give like a lot of information, a lot of value. And I know I do this as well sometimes, a lot. And it's really about honing down into like that micro message, right? One message, like one piece of content, one message, one teeny thing. Like, if you can break it down even more, put those into different. We've had this conversation.
Mhm.
1 to 1 to 1.
Yep.
1 to 1 to 1.
Exactly.
Just
And
one
Amanda
big
here
thing.
is saying, find a lot of PMs want to use all kinds of big words, facts, when when working in PM, which is nonsense. Just write or speak normally. It will be such a higher level of communication just to speak clearly. And that falls for like every industry.
So Amanda knows project management inside and out. Like, she knows this game, and she works with it at the highest level. And I'll tell you what, we get in a room. I've been in so many rooms where people start talking and it's literally acronym city. And I'm like, did you just have a conversation with me over acronyms? Now, how many of these people in here actually understood anything that you just said? And they look at you like you're dumb. Like, what's wrong with you, man? Did you not read the book? We got the book. And I'm like, now how do you say it simply so that the 12 people you just talked to can actually execute? And it's true. And it's like, if you want people to execute towards you, to pull them in, to, instead of trying to constantly push people, you want to pull them. You want to be a magnet. Your messaging is your magnet. How do you create something that draws them into you?
Yeah, I love that.
Simple.
Kiss.
Keep it simple. Like this acronym, like this is probably the only acronym I'll accept.
Wait, but we gotta get rid of the word stupid and call it sexy. Keep it simple and sexy.
Exactly. Like there's no reason to have like acronyms or unnecessary. Like, if it's something that's it's commonplace, always step out of like who and where you are to what your target audience would be thinking. Would they really actually just as a glance, not if they're like sitting there like trying to read it going, no. If they're trying to glance it, as we do with social media, as we do with content, is it easy just to simply understand it?
Yep, has to be like that.
Outside perspective, like
instant.
You know what the problem is? I'm going to add one more thing here to this. And I keep saying this, and I want everybody to really lean in on this. If you don't possess it, you can't give it. And one of the things that we do is we try to jump into something that we're actually not great at. And then what we compensate with more words and more explanation, because we're actually learning. We're learning how to do this thing we're saying. And so as we're natural learners, we're taking all this information and then we're putting it into a thing because we're excited about it. And it becomes I-centric, right? People who are really good at what they do, Einstein said it. If you can't say it simply, you don't understand it. People who are really good at what they do, they just tell you, and they just hit you really like the, CEO mindset, CEO presence, right? You just, boom, here's the thing. And they tell you, and you're like, wow, that you just blew my mind. You just blew my mind.
Yeah, it's so precise.
It's precise. Simple. And that's because you're an expert at it. So find what you're genius at and then communicate that simply, and business will change.
And that leads us into the last section, which is implementation. And I want to start it off with within the team, right? So the team, it's very important that universal simplicity also applies when you're making sure everybody within the whole team get it, regardless of where in the business they stand. Because jumping back to where we started, even one person that doesn't get it could just mess up the whole thing.
Oh my. Bud Light is just the perfect example of that in like all of history.
There's one saying that we should all take from heart that I think our grandmas told us. One bad apple spoils the whole damn bunch.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
It's true. And you can't go ahead. Sorry, I just ramble. I'm like, speak simple. Let me just ramble for an hour.
And it really it goes back to what we learned as kids. I mean, in Australia, we used to call it like Chinese whisper, and I think you guys called it telephone. And it's like going around the room, you would like whisper or like say, like whisper to each other, okay, this is the one message. But by the time it comes back to you, it's like, none of those words were what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that applies within the team.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
So it's not just one message to like from the manager, then down, then down, then down. And then like the last person, they're gonna have a completely different message of what you represent. And that's gonna reflect. Right. So
Yeah.
it is having the whole team, getting the buy-in from every single person in there.
Yeah. And then if there's pieces missing in the message, people will make up something, or they'll insert their experience, their perspective. So all of a sudden you come around and you have all this subjective information added to your
Fluff, noise.
Yeah.
The interpretation, right? If you leave everything up for interpretation, people are going to interpret how they want. And if you think back to what I said earlier, people generalize, we distort, and we delete things. And we're constantly do that. And the further the gap is in power, actually, when you're talking about like with your team. So if the, boots on the ground has a message and they say it to me, and then I have to go say it to the next person, and the next person, the further away you are, the more distorted the message actually gets. So the key is not just buy-in with one person, and then you move up the chain. It's buy-in together collectively as a whole. How do we as a business, what business are we in? What business are we really in? And how do we communicate to each other how we do this? And then where are our checkpoints to make sure that we're aligned and that we're all doing this? And it's not like, hey, I'm just going to go talk to Brooke about this. It's literally your team in a room talking about how we serve people at the highest level to do the thing. And does everybody agree? Because the message is not communicated when you say it. It's when the people understand it and you can get the intended result, period. And when you're dealing with your customers, I have seen this, and I'm telling everybody, I've seen this so many times. I've seen team members disconnected from the goal, the mission. They weren't serving the same mission. They're in a different one, and they killed the reputation of a business. Killed it because of how they interpreted what they think that they need and would tell the client, this isn't what you need. This is what you need. And then sometimes it's fine what you need versus what you want. But I've seen them not even in the same zip code. Make sure everybody at least is in the zip code.
Exactly.
I'm in Portland.
In Portland, right? We just need to get everyone over there.
I'm just in Portland. I'm going to Spain. I'm headed.
Exactly. And Brooke, anything you want to add on Chinese Whispers, the team, having everyone on board?
Well, what I'll just say, I'll give you props. One thing that you did for our business is you started a foundation for us, and something we can continue to build upon for keeping that cohesive brand. We have it in a system. We can bring on team members. We can run them through an onboarding and say, hey, this is us. This is our messaging. This is our tone. These are our values. So it's amazing to have that.
Exactly.
It's important, and that is key. Like systems, it's like get the system down, do the work, get the system down. But again, it's all about the people. People will go south. You got to keep making sure that everybody knows how to use the system.
Mm-hmm.
How do you use the system? What is the intent? What is the purpose? How do you use it? And then make sure that there's some kind of checkpoints in place to make sure that everybody's doing it appropriately. Because if not, it can cost you millions, depending on the size of your business. I say millions, it's like, well, people are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. It'll cost you thousands of dollars. Quick.
Exactly. And then another thing of like the implementation side is holding it on the offer. So
I love that.
Having it as what people need.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Validating that first. And Jeremiah, I know you got lots of ideas here.
Well, I'm just think about it, right? If you're messaging, people fail in like one or like what is it? 3 areas really. They don't have a good message, so they don't draw people in, and then they can't convert them, right? Once they get them in, they don't know how to convert them, and then once they actually, and that usually roils around their offer. So it's your messaging and your offer are 2 big aspects. So if you can't communicate clearly, what it is you do, and then have an offer that reinforces that, you're going to fail. So you have to make sure your offer is, again, not me-centric. So all the things that you want and the vehicle and the bike and all the stuff you're trying to give them, it's the 100% solves their problem. And if you want to be really good at it, just make sure it ties back to your unique genius. If you can take your passions and what you're great at and align it with their problem and create a product that does that, fire.
Make it easy to work with you.
And make it easy to work with you. Like one click, do the thing. Let's get together. It's like the more long form reading we have to do in contract negotiations. I've seen that kill companies too. I mean, they're smart to have them. We have to have them. I get that. But don't make it so brutal that nobody can get out of the negotiations.
Exactly. Like it needs to be, as you were saying before, 1-1-1, right?
1-1-1.
You're talking to one person with one clear offer, using zero jargon, right? Just keep that message.
Good luck.
Super clean. Super clean. Hone it down. Get feedback. Speak to people, being like, hey, you know, I'm trying to talk to other people in your industry, and this is the message. Does this make sense to you? You know, what are your thoughts on this? Right? How does this sound? Like, have that system in place that it is one clear message that is stepping in something that people understand, while, you know, being that unique version of you. And as we continue chatting for these last few minutes, I want to invite everyone who's listening to pop any questions that you have that you've had with like implementing, having this clear message with your offer, with your team, to make sure that everybody's on board. Any challenges that you faced, etc., pop them in the comments. We'll be keeping an eye on them. And Hex, yes, I'm assuming this is still Tyler. That complete picture, clear. Just keep it super clear.
I'm going to say one more thing on that offer thing. Focus on the future, not the features.
That's good for Chris. He had a comment about being technical.
Focus on the future, not the features. Because at the end of the day, the emotional side of our brain is actually what we're looking. We're looking right now. We're like, oh, what is this? How's this? I got a problem. I want to solve it. Where eventually we're going to talk about, you know, the features. But you're going to lose them if all of a sudden you get up there and you say, here are the 722 things that we're going to do for you. And we have this checklist and we have this thing. People are going to be like that. It's really about the future. Who do you become when you work with me? What actual objective result are you going to get when you work with me? Talk about the future, how they're going to be future pacing. And then boom, right at the end, they're going to be like, well, what do I actually get again? I'm sorry. I really want to work with you now because I love you, but what do I get? And you go, oh yeah, really quick. Here's the thing. And then make that simple enough that they can digest it and not get overwhelmed.
Exactly. And even to the point of breaking it down. So I know it seems, and it is a lot to tackle, right? You know, from a outside perspective, after we try to like, okay, let's leave this to later. Let's leave this to later. Like, how effective is this really going to be? But breaking it down to like, okay, who is the target audience, right? Understanding that, spend some time on each of these sections. And then when you get to writing that offer, writing that like 1-1-1 approach, it makes it so much easier.
It really does. It does make it easier. It makes it easier for everybody to digest. It's easier for you to communicate it and for them to digest it.
Jeremiah, question for you. Do I really need to scope projects before kickoff?
What? Nah. Don't do that.
Just wing it.
I'll tell you one thing just really quick from my experience on not scoping projects. If you like dumpster fires, and chaos, like all scoping does, like we all know that plans suck and they never go according to plan. But here's the thing, by understanding specific individual milestones that you have to hit, period, at least it keeps you on the road. Like when you're driving down the road and you hit the button, you know, the lane assist in the middle, we're like, we hit we get back over. That's all it does. It just allows us to get back in the right lane, period.
Keeping it simple.
Know what direction you're going in.
Follow the system, right? Like, there is so much noise out there,
Lots of
so
noise.
many different opinions, right? And often it is just like taking a step back, not step back into you, right? Taking a step back outside to, okay, what that target person, target audience, what are their frustrations?
Mhm.
What are they really feeling?
Mhm.
Getting out there, having conversations, as you guys said, like
Mhm.
that's the best way, to really get the most accurate, to get the most current situations. Like, talk to people.
Mhm.
That's
It
Yeah,
honestly,
simply.
Yeah.
it sounds so like, really, I gotta go talk to people, but honestly, it's the number one. It's so easy, and people really, especially if you're talking to their problems, if you're speaking to them, they're going to answer. So it's not like just go tell you. You got to be personalized when you're talking to people, and you got to want to connect with them and build genuine rapport. And I know that that's like, it sounds hard, but it's true. And if you do that, and you're genuinely, trying to connect with them in a way that's going to solve a problem or help them, people are going to tell you what you need to know, because that's what people want. They want to do better, and they want to help. People want to be helpful, period. I'll just say it like that. People want to be helpful. You just got to ask.
And adding on to that, what you can do, because you're having those conversations, to avoid the jargon, is use words that they're using. Note down like
Mm.
words that they're saying in those
Mhm.
discussions.
Literally.
Those are the words that you're going to use.
Yeah, we've literally taken words from people and said, "That's it. That's how we talk to them right there. Their sentence."
Yeah,
Exactly.
because then they understand it. They're like, oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
It does come a little inauthentic when we're talking to people. Like, you'll see people who use, there's an art to how you build rapport with people. You'll see people who use, like, you're like, hey, I'm having a really bad day. And I'm like, a really bad day? And they're like, yeah, just everything went wrong today. I can do those things. Went wrong today. You can do all those things. That's not what we're saying. Don't do that. That's really good for negotiations. Like, Chris Voss talks a lot about this, and he's a guy who wrote a book on negotiations, all this fun stuff. And he says, do this, but he's literally trying to talk people from, out of a, blowing up a building. You got to be quick. But when you're talking to people, you need to understand, you need to ask them real questions, right? Really get deep to it. And you got to go surface and then understand the problem. And then you want to then be able to utilize their words, and neuro-linguistic programming. You want to be able to utilize their words to just resonate with them. You're not copying them. You just want to resonate with them.
I mean, you could, just not directly after they say it, right? So, like,
Directly
say,
after
for
they say it?
example,
We've all played this
directly after
game.
they say it. Say, for example, they tell you this frustration, right? Earlier in the conversation. Later on, when you're talking with them and you've discovered a little bit more about like more of their frustrations, and you're honing in on like, okay, so this is how I can help you. Then you bring those back down. Their words,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yes.
this,
Yes.
and
Yep.
this is what we can do about it.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's still using, like, it's their words, like, and
Mhm.
that's in messaging, right? Like direct messaging or like over the phone, email, etc. Right? In content, it does become harder to do that, but again, it is putting like, okay, so this one person or these 2-3 people have mentioned this specific line. Make that as your hook line.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
One of the simplest ways I've heard it put is just someone lands on your profile, you want them to look at those words and say, "That's me."
Situation.
Mhm.
Situational
Exactly.
ICP. What's the situation? What are the options? How do we solve it? SOS. Situation, options, solved.
I hear you, Chris. We're in project management, so we understand getting out of the technical aspect of things.
Thank you,
It is
Amanda.
very challenging.
Well, on that note, thank you everyone who has joined us. Jeremiah Book, did you want to briefly share how people can connect with you?
Sure. Yeah. We're both on LinkedIn. You can connect with us there. And we have a project management school called the Project Management Pathway, where we have PMP exam prep, and we help transitioning project managers and also project managers who are just getting out there and trying to win in
Trying
their
to
careers.
actually implement project
Mhm.
management correctly in their jobs.
Education to implementation.
Education to implementation and elevation.
And it's a badass stuff. Love it. Thank you so much, you guys. And from my end, there is that side above you guys. Go join the
Well-
Badass Club. It is the place where bullying goes to die each Friday in your inbox directly. It is extra information and ways to stand out in the crowds, to position, to dominate, etc., as you see here in your inbox. So like it is different to what's on LinkedIn, what's on YouTube, etc., the other profiles, but otherwise you can connect with me on LinkedIn or badassribbyb.com. And
Yep.
thanks for joining us, guys.
One
Have a
thing before we go,
Our
everybody,
newsletter's awesome.
B is incredible. If you need somebody to help you take your branding to the next level, I'm saying the next level, the badass stuff, over the edge, past the edge and beyond. Beatrice is your girl. She's helped us immensely. I've learned incredible things from her, me and Brooke have,
Mhm.
and we love her to death. And we highly recommend her. Rock on.
Yep.
Rock on, B.
B is for badass.
You want to be badass? Think B.
I should just change this. B is to bad. Okay.
You want to think project management? Think me.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. Thank you again, guys. And
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.